Good morning, little Jays. Today, Miss Frizzle is going to read The Magic School Bus Inside a Hurricane. And are you ready? Here we go. The Magic School Bus Inside a Hurricane. Have you heard about our teacher, Miss Frizzle? Her clothes are wild. Her school bus is wacky. And her class trips are weird. Whenever we study something in her class, we get into it in a really big way. We were learning about weather. Absolutely everything in our room was about rain or snow or sun or wind. Every kid in the class was doing a weather project. We were even listening to weather reports on Miss Frizzle's radio. Class, to understand weather, we have to know about the sun. That's a hot topic. At my old school, we didn't have all these projects. At my old school, our teacher didn't dress that way. So we weren't surprised one morning when Miss Frizzle said, "It's a perfect day for our trip to the weather station. We'll meet a team of weather forecasters. We'll learn about our atmosphere." Miss Frizzle says we have to know about air to understand weather. I can't see it. And we have to know about water too. We hadn't finished our experiments about air, but Miss Frizzle was at the wheel. We were going, ready or not. "Sorry, I can't go, Miss Frizzle. I have to sharpen my pencil." "But Arnold, maybe we'll have a real adventure." "In that case, I have to sharpen several pencils. Look for a change in the weather, folks." In no time, we were riding along in the old school bus. We were trying to get some music on the radio. We didn't see Miss Frizzle turning a strange little dial on the dashboard. We didn't notice that the bus was changing. "Wind is just air that is moving, children. Listeners, winds are picking up speed. That radio won't play music. All it does is give the weather." Figures. All of a sudden, Dorothy Ann said, "Look!" We couldn't believe it. We were all wearing flying suits. We were sitting in a basket. The bus had turned into a hot air balloon, and we were about to drift off. At my old school, we never went up in hot air balloons. Sounds like my kind of school. "We'll be using this gas burner to heat the air balloon in the air." We started going up, and Miss Frizzle said, "Did I mention, class, that hot air rises?" Every day, all over the world, scientists send up special balloons to take weather measurements. We were going up. Wow! We rose higher and higher. Even though hot air was filling the balloon, the air around us was growing colder. We all had to put on warm jackets. "It's cold up here." "You're not afraid of high places, are you, Arnold?" "That radio spoke to me." How did it know my name?" "I knew I should have stayed home today." You can't see it, but it's all around you. What is it? Air. "Warm air rising from Earth carries lots of water vapor molecules," Miss Frizzle continued. "As the air rises, it cools down. The water condenses in the air and forms clouds." Tell me this isn't happening. Did you bring your raincoat, Arnold? We drifted into the center of a cloud. Miss Frizzle was right. It was damp in there. The cloud was made of tiny water droplets hanging in the air. When is that teacher bringing our class? Not till later, much later. What kind of clouds are forming around Miss Frizzle and the kids? Inside the cloud, droplets began coming together. They formed bigger and bigger drops. As the drops became heavier, they started falling. It takes thousands of droplets to form just one raindrop. Most class stay in on rainy days, not Miss Frizzle's class. Down below, the weather forecasters were standing in the rain. They didn't see us inside the cloud, but we could hear their voices. One of them said, "I hope the teacher knows there's a hurricane watch in effect." "Check out my hurricane watch, Arnold. Get it? Hurricane watch?" I'm pretending I can't hear. As usual, Miss Frizzle paid no attention. She turned up the fire and more hot air rushed into the balloon. As we rose above the cloud, the wind started pushing us south. Before long, we had traveled thousands of miles. Miss Frizzle said we were above a tropical ocean about 500 miles north of the equator. Below us, blue-green waves were sparkling. On a sandy island, palm trees were waving. It looked like a vacation paradise to us, but Miss Frizzle said, "Class, we have now arrived at one of the world's hurricane breeding grounds. Nearly all hurricanes get started over warm tropical ocean, kids." I've heard that hurricanes are dangerous, so Miss Frizzle is taking us to one. She would. Wow, look at that water. We can go swimming and windsurfing and snorkeling. Class, remember that as hot air rises from the ocean's surface, the water vapor in the air condenses and forms clouds, said the Frizz. Down below, more hot air rushed in from all sides to take the place of rushing air. In the middle of rising air, a column of sinking air formed. We started sinking into it. "A hurricane is starting. Our balloon is falling. Oh no!" "Oh dear," said Miss Frizzle. "The balloon must have sprung a leak." Hot air was rushing out and the balloon was plummeting fast. "Jump ship, class!" shouted the Frizz. We jumped overboard and we went after her. Right away, we knew it was a big mistake. Hurry up and jump, Arnold. I can't look. "Follow me, kids." The wind was blowing the clouds into a huge circle. The storm is starting to take on the typical shape of a hurricane. "Isn't it fascinating, children?" shouted Miss Frizzle. It was more than fascinating. It was terrifying. We were caught in the edge of the storm, blowing around and around in a giant whirlwind. The whirlwind was a hurricane. "Help! We're going around in circles. I'm getting dizzy." A typical hurricane has a lifespan of about 10 days. Listeners, we'll be telling you about the whole hurricane. Maybe its batteries will run out soon. In the clouds around us, huge bolts of lightning were flashing. We thought it was all over for us. But then we saw the bus again. It had become a weather plane, the kind that explores hurricanes. We tumbled into a rescue chute and fell into the plane. That is, the bus. We mean the plane. During a thunderstorm, lightning can make more electricity than a big city uses in a week. It's our bus. It looks different. Let's get on now. Come back. Thunder crashed and boomed. We covered our ears. Miss Frizzle turned the plane and we headed straight toward the center of the storm. We had a feeling someone was missing. "We're now experiencing the hurricane close up, but not to worry, Arnold. I'm sure we'll be fine." Why does everything always happen to me? We flew through miles of thunderstorms and Miss Frizzle took roll call. Guess who was missing? Arnold. He had fallen and missed the plane. "Arnold fell, poor kid, oh no." "Arnold is now experiencing the hurricane close up, but not to worry, Tim. I'm sure he'll be fine. Miss Frizzle marked Arnold absent and flew straight into the storm. We're flying into the hurricane. What a disaster. Why does everything always happen to us? We'll be seeing stormy seas today, Arnold. Seeing stormy seas? I'm touching them, smelling them, tasting them. The farther in we went, the faster the winds blew. At last, we came to the inner hurricane and entered the eye wall, a ring of heavy clouds around the storm's center. In the eye wall, the winds were blowing the fastest yet, and the rain was coming down in sheets. The eye wall is the fiercest part of the hurricane. We're encountering turbulence, class. Turbulence is when the air is violently disturbed. I am violently disturbed. All around were columns of air called hot towers or chimneys. They were sucking up more and more hot, moist air from the ocean. The heat energy from the air was feeding the storm and making it stronger. The plane was shaking, and so were we. I'm all shook up. Please stay seated, class. Hey kid, how'd you get out here? It's a long story. Waves will be as high as a house. The wind speed is 40 miles per hour here. Then suddenly, everything was quiet. Class, we have entered the eye or center of a hurricane, announced Miss Frizzle. The ocean waves still crashed below and the winds howled inside. But in the eye, only gentle breezes blew. High up above, the sky was blue and the sun was shining. We relaxed and enjoyed ourselves. Peace and quiet, balmy breezes. We flew about 30 miles across the eye. Then the Frizz called out, "We will enter the other side of the eye wall now." Don't go, we cried. But the plane was already on its way back into the hurricane's fierce wind and rain. We're trying to reach land before the full force of this hurricane hits. Good idea. The hurricane is approaching land. There will be heavy flooding along the coast. The entire hurricane was moving across the ocean toward land, and we were going with it. The right forward corner of the hurricane, as you are looking toward land, has the strongest wind and rain and the highest ocean waves, shouted the Frizz. Naturally, she flew directly into that part. Arnold should be reaching land any minute now. Let's take a spin. It moves two ways. A hurricane moves like a top spinning across the floor. It moves two ways. It spins around and it travels forward. The hurricane should be reaching land any minute now. We must evacuate before the floods come. Tell me about it. As the hurricane approached land, the wind pulled up trees by the roots and blew the roofs off of houses. It also blew ashore a huge dome of water called a storm surge. The ocean rose 10 feet higher than usual, and on top of that, there were giant waves. We were horrified as we watched the storm surge sweep over the ocean below. In 1900, more than 6,000 people drowned when a storm surge swept across Galveston Island, Texas, class. That was a long time ago. It wouldn't happen now. But that was nothing compared to the horror we felt when we heard the Frizz shouting above the sound of roaring water. We seem to be running out of gas, children! Sure enough, the plane was tipping lower and lower. And as we fell into the water, we saw Arnold waving to us from a nearby roof. That kid looks familiar. That plane looks familiar. Arnold, we need to evacuate now. Today, hurricane predictions save lives. Somehow, Arnold managed to get on the plane before we were swept away by the waves at the front edge of the hurricane. The water was creeping up the windows. The plane was going to sink for sure. Then we saw a dark funnel shape coming our way. We fell into the ocean. We flew into the eye. A fish boat picked us up. The eye wall was the worst. We thought we were goners. We thought we were goners. We are goners. I've seen that shape on TV. I read about it in a book, said Keisha. The twister came right for us. The next thing we knew, it had picked us up and we were traveling by tornado. Tornadoes often occur at the edges of hurricanes that are moving over land, class. A typical tornado has a short lifespan, only a few minutes. I think my lifespan just got shorter. After a while, we felt a bump and looked around. A tornado had set us down gently. We were in our old school bus again. We were dressed in our regular clothes again. The hurricane was over and we were at a gas station. Thank goodness. Usually the things that are picked up by a tornado are broken apart, but not always. Miss Frizzle filled up the tank and drove down the road as if nothing had happened. As I said earlier, class, we are on our way to visit a weather station, she said. Take our case, for example. We're all okay. Even the radio is still working fine. Here's a treat just for you, Arnold. Another weather update. That depends on what you mean by working fine. The weather forecasters at the station had a lot to tell us about hurricanes. We had a lot to tell them, too. Hurricane winds swirl in a circle because of the rotation of the earth. Hey, that's right. A hurricane dies as it moves over land because there is no more hot, moist ocean air to fuel the storm. The kids know a lot about hurricanes, don't they, Al? That radio spoke to me. How did it know my name? I knew I should have stayed home today. Finally, we drove back to school and finished up our weather projects. Global warming could mean more hurricanes, and they might be stronger. And now for some music. What? No more weather? Cool. All right. After that trip, we needed some time to relax. Miss Frizzle said we could have a party. We had great games, crazy dancing, and yummy snacks. And for a while, we didn't even think about Miss Frizzle's next class trip. You danced quite well for a radio. At my old school, our teacher never wore bee shoes. And that is the end of the story, The Magic School Bus Inside a Hurricane. And today we don't have any birthdays today. Little Jays, I love you, love you, love you, and I miss you, and I hope you have a great day. And Miss Frizzle will be back tomorrow.